In World War II, the Soviet Union and Russian military services enlisted over 40,000 dogs in their forces against the German forces. These dogs, used against German tanks, are known as anti-tank dogs. Although they were trained for first aid and food distribution during the war, the Soviets then thought, why not use them to blow up German tanks? This was a task that required a great deal of training for the dogs, and the Soviet army did not have any special training schools for training. And in 1935, he also included a circus trainer and several animal scientists. The idea was to tie a bomb to a dog and send it to enemy tanks. Once there, the dog will pull the pin out with its teeth, so the bomb would go off right there, and then the dog would come back to his trainer. After this, the bomb will be detonated through timer or remote control. If we talk about trained German shepherds, then this task was not difficult for them. A group of dogs were trained, but even after 6 months of training, not a single dog could succeed in this task. The reason for this was that they were being trained on a standing tank, and when as a test, he was given this task at a new location and in front of a moving tank. In such a situation, the dogs used to get confused as to where to drop the bomb, and there were many chances that in a field fight the dogs would bring this bomb back to their trainer. Not only this, if a timer bomb is fitted in it, it can come back and explode in the middle of the Soviet Union. To deal with this issue, a new idea was adopted. This time such bombs were placed on the dogs, which would explode as soon as they touched anything. And it is clear that the dog will also be killed in this. To make this new idea a reality, the dogs were first kept hungry, and they were given training that their food hangs at the bottom of the tank. As soon as the dog jumps to the bottom of the tank, the detonator will be pressurized and it will explode along with the dog. This time the Soviets began giving the dogs actual battlefield training, in which they were also used to jump under a moving tank and amidst the sound of gunfire and explosions of murder. The only thing that was fake during the training was the bomb planted on them. After several months of training, it has now been successful. Dogs had learned to jump even under a moving tank. Now it was the turn to use them in the real war. A 12 kilograms mine was planted on each dog, and their safety pin was also removed before launch. Such a mechanism was made from the wooden lever that as soon as the dogs jumped under the tank, the mine on them would explode automatically. Let us tell you here that no matter how strong the tank is from above, the tank can be blasted from below and destroyed. For the first time in 1941, 30 dogs were released on German tanks. The Soviets had no idea that there was a huge loophole in their training. In the actual battlefield, abandoned dogs from the Soviet Union also went close to German tanks, but most of them refused to jump under the tanks. On the contrary, under the shelling of German soldiers, they would panic and come back to the Soviet Union and explode between them. The Soviets could not understand why these dogs were not jumping under the German tanks. Now the returning dogs used to hug the Soviets, and they decided that any dog that returned would be killed on the way. Of the 34 hit, 6 retreated, 3 were killed by the Germans, and the rest were captured by German soldiers. The Soviet Union did not yet know the real reason why the dogs did not jump under the German tanks. They thought something was right, but somehow they were targeting German tanks, and they used to release the dog in battle and kill the one who returned. The Germans, on the other hand, were well aware of these anti-tank dogs. They would kill any dog that came their way. Launched dogs either exploded under German tanks or were killed before reaching them, and the rest of the dogs that used to go back were killed by the Soviets. There is hardly any such incident in history in which maximum number of dogs were killed. It was later discovered that the tanks which had been trained by the Soviets to jump under dogs had engines fitted, while German tanks used to run on petrol. The smell was very different to the dogs that smelled diesel when it was sent on German tanks. By the time the Soviet Union found out about the real thing, it was too late. Thousands of trainers had already quit their jobs after seeing the dogs die in front of them. This was the reason why this Soviet idea flopped miserably and the training schools were closed after 1942. But later the same idea was adopted by the Japanese Imperial Army against America in 1943. Seeing them, America also started training dogs, and these dogs were named Demolition Wolver by America. The bomber used to go fast and explode in the Japanese bunker, but USA also faced the same problem that often the dogs returned instead of going to the bunker. For the next several months, no specific solution could be found for the return of the dogs, and on December 17, 1943, America also accepted defeat and ended the program of demolition Wolver in terms of security. This was the story of anti-tank dog. But do you know that in World War II such guided missiles were also being made which were not controlled by humans, but by pigeons, and the pigeon was trained in the same way. In this video you can see two pigeons are playing with the ball as soon as the ball is released from the other pigeon. Then a small feeder opens for the shot pigeon where it is given food as a reward. But the question is how pigeons playing ping pong ball can operate a missile. To give training to the pigeon, it was put in a pan and then a circle was rotated in front of it. The pigeon was trained that it would be given food only if it pecked at this circle. When the pigeon completed this first stage of training, a metal bar was attached to its beak, which was connected by wire, and whenever the pigeon pecks at its target, the movement of the pigeon's beak would change its movement. Next time a picture of a warship was placed in front of the pigeon instead of a piece of material. For the pigeon, who was already quite trained, it was not a difficult task to place this picture of the warship in the middle of the window. Using this mechanism, the input signal from the pigeon's beak was used to drive the guided missile, in which the pigeon will be inside this missile only, and whenever the missile starts moving away from the target, the pigeon's beak signal will adjust the missile's radar and turn it back towards the warship. B.F. Scanner, the American psychologist behind this project, successfully carried out this experiment, and America had also almost approved this missile. But in 1953, electronic guided missile technology had changed a lot. For this reason this project of BF Scanner was rejected. But it is not that after this the use of birds was stopped. Birds are still being used as weapons today. Dutch police have trained hawks that can shoot down drones in the air. From a young age their brains are trained against drones and rewarded in return. Special gloves were also worn to prevent any damage to the feet of the eagle from the fast-moving prop of the drone. As soon as their paws touch the props of the drone, they stop and drop the drone to the ground. According to the Dutch police, the success rate of this weapon is 95%, which is more than other anti-drone weapons. Similarly, dolphins and seahorses have also been used to detect underwater mines. She not only informs her trainers by detecting strange objects inside the sea, they may even be able to hook them with a rope so that naval officers can pull them out of the water. And the torpedo missile you are seeing on the screen was detected in 2013 by Navy dolphins. The serial number of this missile was found to have been launched off the San Diego coast during training in 1890. Thank you for watching.